Episode 11 of ABO Desire. The series is probably one of the most emotionally frustrating yet heartbreaking episodes we've seen so far. The writers clearly wanted to hit us hard with the raw pain of misunderstanding, and they succeeded. This time, the spotlight is on Shen Wenlang and his complete insensitivity toward Gao Tu. What makes this episode so powerful is that the conflict doesn't come from outside enemies or dramatic action scenes. It comes from Shen Wenlang's inability to truly see what's in front of him, to see Gao Tu, who has been silently loyal for 10 long years. And the tragedy here is not just about a broken relationship between Alpha and Beta, it's about a blind man who doesn't realize the weight Gao Tu is carrying, literally and emotionally, his child. From the very beginning, we see the cracks widening between the two. Shen Wenlang has always been portrayed as strong, cold, and domineering, the kind of man who sees the world as something he can control with sharp words and decisive actions. But episode 11 paints him in the worst light yet. Gao Tu, who has always been soft-spoken, patient, and enduring, finally speaks up. For the first time in a decade, he raises his voice in defiance. This is shocking, not just to Shen Wenlang, but to us as viewers who have grown used to seeing Gao Tu quietly accept everything. The trigger, an omega, or at least, that's what Shen Wenlang thinks. When Shen Wenlang sneers and mocks Gao Tu, asking if he's really standing up for an omega, it shows how little he understands about the man beside him. He reduces Gao Tu's emotions to nothing more than blind loyalty to another person, refusing to acknowledge that maybe Gao Tu's actions are rooted in something deeper. Instead of asking why Gao Tu is so upset, Wenlang lashes out, protecting his own pride. It's this arrogance, this inability to read between the lines, that sets the stage for the heartbreak that follows. The resignation scene is one of the most gut-wrenching moments. Gao Tu, who has given his whole life to Wenlang's side, hands in his resignation not because he wants to chase after some random omega, but because he has something far greater and more life-changing happening inside him. He is carrying Shen Wenlang's child. But Wenlang, so caught up in his assumptions, mocks him, labeling him as a fool blinded by love for an omega. He calls him a waste, someone who would throw away a stable life and a good salary for nothing but misplaced feelings. The irony here is brutal. Wenlang doesn't realize that Gao Tu's resignation isn't about leaving for another person, it's about protecting himself and the new life he carries, the child that belongs to both of them. The audience knows this truth, and watching Wenlang misunderstand so cruelly makes it almost unbearable. What's striking is how Shen Wenlang completely misses the signs. He thinks the strong omega scent around Gao Tu is from some secret affair, from some passionate exchange that leaves the smell lingering. He feels disgusted, even suffocated, imagining Gao Tu in bed with someone else. The jealousy slips through, and though he denies it, his anger exposes his own hidden emotions. But the key here is his blindness. He's so lost in his assumptions and pride that he cannot even consider the possibility that Gao Tu's scent, his condition, might be connected to him. It's frustrating, because the man who claims to be in control is, in reality, completely lost. What makes this episode even more impactful is how it highlights Gao Tu's suffering. For years, Gao Tu has lived in Shen Wenlang's shadow, always supporting, always sacrificing, and never once asking for anything in return. Yet when he finally reaches his breaking point, Wenlang doesn't give him empathy. Instead, he gives him ridicule. Gao Tu's pain is invisible to Wenlang, and this insensitivity shows just how little Wenlang has truly valued him. Gao Tu resigns not out of weakness, but out of strength, choosing to step away from a man who will never see him clearly. And that choice, though heartbreaking, feels like his first real act of self-preservation. From a storytelling perspective, episode 11 is a masterclass in dramatic irony. We, the audience, know the truth about Gao Tu's pregnancy. We know the child he carries is Wenlang's. And so every sneer, every insult Wenlang throws feels like a dagger not just to Gao Tu, but to us watching. It's the painful contrast between what Wenlang thinks and what we know that makes this episode so emotionally charged. When he calls Gao Tu a waste, and ridicules him for being enslaved by love, we see just how wrong he is, and that makes his insensitivity all the more tragic. At the same time, the episode digs into Shen Wenlang's own inner conflict, even if he doesn't realize it. His anger about Gao Tu's supposed closeness with an Omega, his fixation on Gao Tu's scent, his bitter thoughts about Gao Tu being good in bed, these are not the thoughts of a man indifferent to his beta. They are the thoughts of a man who is jealous, insecure, and afraid to admit his own feelings. The problem is, Wenlang refuses to confront those emotions. Instead of admitting his care for Gao Tu, he buries it under insults and anger. And in doing so, he pushes away the one person who has always been by his side. Episode 11 leaves us with a feeling of frustration and sadness. We want to shake Shen Wenlang, to force him to open his eyes and realize the truth before it's too late. Gao Tu's quiet suffering has reached its peak, and Wenlang's blindness has never been more apparent. The tragedy is that the child Gao Tu carries could have been the bridge between them, the proof of their bond. Instead, Wenlang's pride and insensitivity turn it into a wedge driving them apart. From a YouTuber's perspective, I would say this episode is both brilliant and painful. It delivers drama at its finest, not through big battles or shocking twists, but through the small, sharp wounds of misunderstanding. Shen Wenlang's insensitivity is frustrating to watch, but it's also incredibly realistic. How often do people in real life fail to see the ones who care for them most? How often do pride and assumptions blind us to the truth? Episode 11 takes that real human flaw and magnifies it in a way that feels raw and unforgettable. In conclusion, Episode 11 of ABO Desire the series is a turning point. It shows us the cost of Shen Wenlang's arrogance and insensitivity, and it pushes Gao Tu to finally step away. The heartbreak is heavy, but it sets the stage for powerful developments ahead. If Wenlang ever wants to win back Gao Tu, he'll have to learn to let go of his pride and finally see the truth. Until then, we're left with a painful cliffhanger, a man who has lost the one person who stood by him, and a child growing inside Gao Tu that Wenlang doesn't even know exists. This episode is pure emotional devastation, but also a brilliant setup for what's to come.